So today, Janet E. Johnson and I are going to be talking about persistence and staying in front of those customers and prospects, and most importantly, prospecting your past to make a better future. So before we get into all that, let me have you say hello to the one and only, the super talented, the possibly going back overseas and speaking again, social media maven, ROI Academy woman having, Janet E. Johnson. Where today the E stands for let's enjoy this shit, shall we?
I can't believe you didn't say Egypt after you just talked about it.
We did that. We've done Egypt. So I'm
enjoyment.
Pretty sure we haven't done let's enjoy this shit, but we may have done that too. Who knows?
Oh, I have to tell you something that is quite funny that you will enjoy. So went out to dinner with our friend Mike O'Neill, or we just went to happy hour after he spoke at my event.
He's been on two shows before, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep, exactly. Mike O'Neill. Yep, he's the LinkedIn sales navigator guy. He is just like, that's his specialty. And he joked about what do you think?
Oh, yeah, your shoulders, your cold shoulder shit.
So we had a whole talk about how I should just completely brand my life in cold shoulders. I go, well, it kind of already is. But so then he went to coldshoulders.com to see if it was available. $4,000 for sale right
now. That's awesome. Coldshoulders.com. You might have to change it to Janet C.S. Johnson. I kind of like that. That's not a bad deal. Can we do that?
Yeah, well, that's a whole new branding thing I don't need to handle at this point. So that's funny.
So
but
funny.
Anyway, so I thought you'd probably get a kick out of that, but I got to figure that out. My fear is it's a trend. And when you jump on these trends, like TikTok, for instance, or, which I am jumping on, but bottom line is you don't know if it's going to last. And I'm all about being in fashion at the time. So you'd hate to think about the 80s trends. And what if I got into, the tight leggings, or what was it back then? The big hair. Let's say you branded yourself with the big hair and it went out of style. Well, you'd have to keep the big hair.
Which somebody's going to be really happy to do that. So wait, are you like a Visco girl now? Is that you got that whole VSCO thing going? What's up? Guess. How's it go? You do.
Oh gosh, that's what my son talks about. I don't know what that is because I wore a scrunchie on my wrist the other day, and he's like, "Oh, you have a scrunchie on your wrist?" And that's called what is it?
You're an anti-oop right now, man. I am all hipped up to my TikTok lingo. Mostly because
that's great.
Here's what happened, because this is important. Because listen, those of you who have 11-year-old girls or 15-year-old girls need to pay attention right here, right now.
Oh boy.
Dr. Phil, because I watch Dr. Phil all the time now. No, that's not true. I saw Dr. Phil on a video asking what SKSKS meant, what VSCO meant, and what and-a-oop meant. And I was like, I have no idea. This is what I do at 1:30 in the morning, by the way. I was like, I don't know. What is this? So I saw this on Twitter yesterday, and I was scrolling through, and I was looking for an actual response. And there's a dude who keeps up to date on all the 11 and 13-year-old girl trends, because he must have a daughter, and he blogs about this stuff and puts video content out about it. And that's so he attracts an audience of parents like us who don't have time to pay attention or don't want to ask their kids or aren't getting a straight scoop. So he's dialing us in. So it was kind of a trip, man. And so that whole Visco girl VSCO thing is all about scrunchies on the wrist,
totally
on the hair, right? It's like the most basic white girl thing you got going on, starting them young though.
That is super funny. Well, that's what my son said. He said that's what all the girls in the high school do. He goes, "Mom, you're a Visco girl." So he took a picture of me and sent it to all his friends. And I'm like, what is he even talking about? I'm way older than that, but I still like to keep up with the trends. So there you go.
Keeping it real goes bad. Yeah, so that's funny.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's get to the topic. So our topic today is, Terry.
prospecting the past, right? So
Okay.
I was having a conversation with my business coach this morning because congratulations, that's me patting myself on the back after calling on this company for, I don't want to say 19 years. That was the first time I actually called on them, but I was trying to interview for a job 19 years ago. But I started calling on them to earn their business as a consultant probably 11 years ago. After doing that, every so often over the past 11 years, I picked up a check today because I finally found where my skills and abilities met their needs. And we came to an agreement on how to have some level of transference, right? So I'm going to be building some training for them, and it's kind of cool and exciting. And they paid me, which is even more cool and exciting. But as I was telling my,
Very cool.
yeah, I thought so. I'm like, yay. As I was telling my coach about this and about the meeting that I was going to have and about trying to tee it up and get all the information that I needed to start building the training, he said, you need to ask them one question. I said, what's that? He said, ask them whether they're going after new clients or existing clients, right? Because when we talk about sales, we
Mm-hmm.
can sell more by leveraging either of those opportunities. And I laughed. I'm like, come on, man, you know that everybody only thinks about selling to new clients. Very few people are ever thinking about how do I go sell more to my existing clients, right? And so because of that, we miss golden opportunity after golden opportunity, you know. And so we chatted about that for a few minutes. And then when you and I were talking pre-show, I said, you know, it's not even enough to go after clients. We got to go after past prospects too, right? And you said something about people change, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, being in my field, especially with social media, I mean, I'm doing it as long as I have, back in '07, '08 when I first started, people thought Facebook was a joke. I mean, and social media wasn't going to go anywhere. And so life has changed and transformed so much
I
that
dig there was a trend.
it's, yeah, exactly, basically, exactly. But the bottom line is it's, I mean, I don't know. I couldn't go back that far with client base. I don't think I tracked it well enough, to be honest, but bottom line is there's a lot of potential. They're coming around. And if they haven't yet, well, I hope they stay in business. I guess that's one side of things. But, so if you have, especially if you had prospected with a bigger company too, or somebody that you even stay in touch with, like, once in a while, like you had done, you just kind of continuously talk to them. And so I think people need to think about, who have they talked to in the past? I think that's great. And who has purchased from them in the past, and could they use your help again? I think is even better.
That's exactly right. So it's the idea of just kind of how do you stay in front of these people? And as much as I like the idea of loading email addresses into MailChimp and writing up something clever and then getting the little high five from the chimp when I schedule that post, that ain't enough, right? That's not even close
No,
to.
but I do say that is a great, I get shocked at how long some people have been on my email list that suddenly purchase from me.
Right. Or all of a sudden you get a message from, you didn't think these people even existed or
And
ever
the reason
opened.
they remember is because we're in front of them again and again and again. So I do, I agree with you. And but the big thing is, I know it's not enough, but it should be done. That's
Yeah, when I say it's not enough, I'm not
mhm,
saying don't do it.
exactly,
I'm saying that's the bare minimum,
exactly.
right? Like
Yep,
if you're gonna do nothing else, do that,
yep.
right? At least find a way to stay in front of them. And it doesn't like I'll be the first one to admit my cadence on my email newsletter is horrendous. The goal is twice a month, the second and fourth Wednesday. The reality is, if I get 9 out this year, I'll be probably happy,
You've
right?
been good though. I've noticed your consistency with it. I've noticed much more consistency. And mine is once a week, but I don't have I aim, it ends up being the end of the week, but sometimes it's Thursdays, sometimes it's Fridays. And like now that we're talking about right now, I didn't get one out this week, so
You're
I'm
like,
not sure when it will happen.
it's like, well, sometimes it's every week. And
Yeah.
so, but to the point, better something than
Yes.
nothing. But to the better point and to the bigger point, how often are you tickling these people, right? With just I got a phone call yesterday from a former client, right? My client, not, I wasn't a client of his,
Okay.
saying, "Hey, man, I haven't chatted with you for a while. Just wanted to catch up and see what's new and going on in your world, right? Just give me a shout, right?" And because he's going back into busy mode, right? And I can be a good
Mm,
source of contacts or a good source of information. I'm a good person to have come over and like a post and comment on a post of yours, right? So reaching out to me ends up having some level of spike in your world normally. Um, so he's smart about that, right? But it's a matter of, if you're not staying top of mind with people some way, somehow, I think you're missing out. So let's talk a little bit about some ideas on how you can do that, right? We hit the bare minimum, right? We hit the newsletter, you know. Um, what how do you stay top of mind with
well,
people?
and obviously there's the social media too.
Yeah,
Being connected on LinkedIn, blah blah blah. There's all those pieces too. That's even lower in my mind than an email.
I think so too,
So,
right?
yep.
Status update isn't quite as good as an email blast.
Nope. Exactly. Exactly. So then, yeah, the next level would be a actual email. For me, it would be an actual email saying, "Hey, how's it going? Any update?" Direct to the
Like
person.
a personal message to that
Yes,
individual.
exactly. And depending on your level of relationship, the next level would be like a text.
Hmm.
Do I personally pick up the phone and call? Not typically.
Not typically. Not, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe not enough, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe not ever, depending on what you mean by not typically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for me, I'll pick up the phone and call people, right? I
Mm-hmm.
still find the phone to be the single best networking tool there is. Although I will also admit, like I'm working on a project now where I've got to set some appointments and make some introductions. And I made a list of the 50 people that I wanted to reach out to, and I'm probably through 20, 25 of those. And that list should take me, like, if I'm hyper focused and doing that one thing and that one thing only, and if you know me, you know that's never going to happen. But like, I can make 50 calls in a day, right? I've made 112 calls in a day, right? So if I'm being honest, I can do it. I've done it. Um, but I'm 25 in a week, right? But I'm also trying to be strategic and dripping it as opposed to like cranking right through it all at once. So, but that call
Interesting.
thing
Yeah. Yeah.
is
But I think you
important.
have to get with what you're talking about. You really have to get in a mindset mode for that.
You do, because it's
Mm-hmm.
not. This isn't a, "Hey, how you doing? I want to catch up. Haven't spoken to you for a while" call. This is, "Hey, I got this really cool opportunity that you're a unique fit for. Do you want to hear more?"
Got it.
And that's a different conversation. When I go from Terry, the networking guy who's kind of fun and joyous to talk to Terry, the sales guy who's trying to, you know, further my agenda. I'm only going to pick you if I think it's going to benefit you. I'm not just calling people randomly,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still, there's a different feel inside of me when I make those calls, and those calls still need to be made,
I
right?
know. Yep, they
So
do. They do.
ultimately, we collectively, and I don't mean just Janet and I mean we collectively need to make those calls.
I agree. I agree. It is something that, uh, you know, I feel like, and but let's take this a step further though. We, you more than me, but I guess I couldn't be kind of that category. We're solopreneurs in a way.
Hmm.
Um, I'm a little less because I have a few
You
people
have a
that work
team.
for me,
You have peeps.
but I'm still
I have
kind of in
you.
that category. Yeah. But the bottom line is, if you are not going to do that and do not want to do that, and which is kind of my world in a way, I don't really want to be picking up the phone and doing the sales, but I, at this point, still do. But I am looking at ways to sub that out to somebody else. It's always best to be the person to get on the phone, of course. You can sell your business the best, but it still is something that all those follow-up calls would happen a whole lot more if it wasn't me doing it, because I have all this other side of the world to be doing too.
It's a weird thing in the fact that we're talking about this, because my original business concept for Network Inc. was the idea that sales was going to be the next great wave of things that got outsourced, right? We outsourced accounting, we outsourced human resources, we outsourced information technology. We've outsourced purchasing to an extent. Sales to me seems like a real natural thing to outsource, because if you look at sales professionals as a rule, if you have a team of 20, 4 of those people are going to hit their quota consistently every month, right? And they're probably 3 of those 4 are going to be the same, and one's going to bounce in there. Then you got the next 12 that are going to be like, maybe they hit their quota, maybe they don't, maybe they do, maybe they don't. And every other month it's a crapshoot. And then you got 4 that are never going to come anywhere near the damn quota in the history of time. But maybe they've got one good relationship and that's enough. Maybe they're fun to be around and they bring the rest of the team up. So they're worth keeping, sort of, but not really. So I was like, man, we just scrapped 12 of those people, right? And we outsource them and we share them with other people that, other companies that are calling on those same types of customers, and allow them to just manage the relationships they have. That would be a much better model. I mean, think about it for a second, right? Most companies sell a thing to a dozen different people. Wouldn't it be easier to sell a dozen things to one person, right? Because salespeople generally don't know that much. We just, as a rule, we know enough to get by, but we're bringing in, and especially when you start talking about technical stuff or technology,
Yeah.
you can bring in the subject matter expert. You start talking about engineering. There's
Yep.
a sales engineer, whatever the case may be. You always got to bring in the super smart guy that doesn't know how to sell, but knows the actual stuff, right? So I don't know. That's just
Yeah.
off tangent.
No, I think you're right. I mean, it is. I think if somebody wants to grow their business to the next level, and I sell every day. I'm not saying I don't do sales, because it's natural. I mean, we all do sales. Like, we all are in sales. I mean, I don't care. Even if you think you're not, you are. Like, I just sold you guys on cold shoulders. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, just goofy stuff, like, not you.
And I just about bought that too.
But I mean, I recommend those cold shoulders.
Look at that. Look at that. Some sexiness right there. Right.
But the bottom line is, but I do think it needs to be subbed out if it's not something where you want to get to the next level in your business, and you need to be the head of the business and have somebody else do it, especially if you don't want to be the one picking up the phone. Now, granted, you have to till you have a certain income, that kind of thing. And you've got to do it all. And that's, I kind of think, the level that we're talking about at this point, that we do have to force ourselves or find somebody on our team to build our business, because you do need to get to the next, continuously do sales. You just always have to continuously do sales. But I think, going back to the biggest point, I think that I've learned through what we've talked about so far, is just that you got to remember the past. Customers that bought from you are much more likely. And that's kind of a sales funnel piece too. So I just bought, for instance, a $29 ebook. Not even that. I think it was less than that. I think it was $15. I had to pay the shipping. But now I purchased something from that person. So I am now a customer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of a sales funnel. That's why they build out sales funnels like that. Because now that you're a customer, and then I got access to a back end office with this because I bought that. And now, of course, what are they going to do? Try to get me to upgrade to something else. Absolutely. Which a lot of that content related, they know, well, if they did that ebook, and they're willing to spend money, they might be willing to spend money on something else and blah, blah, blah. So I think that's just, it's a piece of a funnel too. It should be, where you get them to purchase something small and then bring it to a new level to go to the bigger. That's another whole nother thing, but it's a sales funnel piece too.
But it's an important piece, right? Because ultimately the sales process involves know, like, and trust. And that's like the hardest part is, so, I forget what the stats are. 76% is the number that keeps running through my head, that people that don't go back and reach out to their existing client base, right? And it's like, it's so much easier to sell somebody who's already given you money, right? And it's nuts that we don't do that. So to
I
me,
agree.
I think you have to have some sort of, maybe it's a quarterly or maybe it's semi-annually, where you're going out and touching these people again. Doesn't have to be a face-to-face meeting. To your point earlier, it could simply just be an email. Doesn't even have to be that phone call, but just a, hey, checking in. I've got folks that I've talked to about speaking, and when I'm on my game, I move those emails into a folder that says speaking in my inbox, right? And
Yeah.
so when I'm sitting around, I'm like, well, shit, I haven't done any prospecting. Hey, here's a bunch of people that I've talked to about speaking at an event that I may have spoken, I may not have spoken, but guess what? They're probably going to have another event at some point. Now might be a good time to just say, hey, what's going on? And from a speaker's perspective, the best time to reach out to somebody that's an event manager isn't a month before the event, it's a month after the last event, right? So because they're probably already starting to think about who's coming up next. So it's really a matter of just constantly staying on track with people.
Yeah. And that would take and it's a good CRM system makes a difference too. I'm not great with my CRMs. I've had HubSpot, I've had another one. I've had a few. I'm not the best with it. I have actually found what I'm using, and I've kind of got Terry on it a little bit. I don't know how much you're using it now, but Trello. Trello is where I put almost all I have my life in Trello now. So, get a system that works for you so that you can easily follow up and easily, like you said, you have a folder in your emails, whatever it may be, whatever system works for you, you got to have a system.
Gotta have a system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And CRMs are great because you can set alerts for them to remind you too. So that's the other side of it.
And that's what happens with Trello too, right? It'll pop a reminder. And that's kind of like, for me, and I say this way too often, the odds of me doing something, if it happens now, right? If I can do it now, it's almost 100% done. As this now, I get farther from now, the odds of it happening go down at a really sharp angle, right? I've got to be able to handle stuff in the moment. Otherwise, it does not work as effectively. It just doesn't.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of people. I don't think you're the only one. For sure, it's a lot of people. So it's that's why we need all these reminders. And even, talking about going back to the customer, maybe you have a certain time each month that you take and set aside that you call the customers, past customers that are potential sales, any potential sales. And I was just looking at mine, and I've been talking to a guy for over a year. He wanted to move forward, but never did. I still continuously, when I'm, in that mode, pick up the phone, or I just email, like I said, but it just depends, but just that follow up, do any type of follow up to get in front of them again.
Just get in front of them again. And then especially like for those of us that have, where our clients are on contract or agreement, and we know that there's a certain term, right? So some of that time you got to find out, okay, when was that agreement signed? Oh, you signed it in August? Okay, well, calling you in September probably doesn't make a crap load of sense, whether it's this year or next year, but calling you in May or April might be a really good timeline, because you know that they're going to be shopping potentially again. So you have to figure out what their buying cycle is
That's
and know that
exactly
you
it.
are there at the right time.
And that's where those reminders come in handy. Yep. Just set them on your calendar. That's all you got to do. Set them on something, set them on the CRM system, whatever it may be, but just get a reminder. I think that's really good. Well, I'm trying to aim. I talked to Terry the other day about trying to keep this under a half hour. We are pretty good. So let's finalize this with some action. I think we gave a lot of action steps already, but Terry, give the biggest one you can give for them. And they need to do this within the next 24 hours is our goal.
Make a list of 10 prospects or customers that you haven't reached out to in way too long.
Okay.
And just make the list and then figure out when you're going to actually reach out to them. Pick 10 minimally. Start there.
Cool. I'm going to do that too. Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks a lot. I think this was a great conversation. Follow up with us we would love it if you'd subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you like. You can find us at businessgrowthtime.com/podcast. And we also have a group, businessgrowthtime.xyz on Facebook. All right. Thanks a lot.